Ascension Parish is an immense collection of diverse histories holding countless contributions from African American creatives, each radiating meaningful light. In that spirit, this special edition of Inside Ascension features an artist, an author, and an activist. Ascension 21 hopes you'll find each of their efforts and accomplishments add to the Ascension Parish Cultural Collective.
Because I might be walking or something and an idea will come to me. And I said, I'm going to do this today. I would see the picture before I start, you know, because I just know what it could be. And so I said, this one I'm going to do today. I started like 30 years ago, you know. I used to come to the shop and, you know, buy my art supply. And, you know, the lady who owned the store, she used to say, Al, what you do with all these painting and brushes? And I said, well, I'm just doing it like for a hobby, you know.
Sounds simple enough. Though for Alvin Baptiste, what started as a hobby became what is now recognized as the premier folk art of our region and beyond.
I was just drawing since I was little. You know, I was like 3 when I first started. And, you know, and Mom used to see my work and she started encouraging me. And she said, just keep on with it, you know. One day somebody could discover your talent.
And now you're a proclaimed folk artist. Tell me a little bit about what folk art is and what it means to you.
It's more like, you know, people. It might be like, you know, people like out, maybe like cooking and, you know, like it could be like, you know, the plantation, people working on the plantation, yes, or getting baptized, you know. Just like people picking blackberries, because Mom and them used to go pick blackberries. Oh, this is a good one. It's like an old time, this preservation hall in New Orleans. And that's like people dancing and the musicians. I think this is one of my favorite ones right here.
The memories of his youth, stories told to him by his mother, reflections of African American heritage and rural culture of South Louisiana and Ascension Parish. Images of the past and present put to canvas.
The Cokie building right across the street, St. Catherine Church, and it's the Lemon building, Sunshine Bridge. Then I also have my religious one that I love to do. You see, if I'm not doing like the everyday one, I'll probably be doing like the biblical one. And this is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You see, like some days, I could just go through my little scripture or whatever. I say, oh, this one I'm gonna do today. And see, this one is Mary and Joseph. This is heaven. I just enjoy it. It just means a lot, you know, that people come in, you know, and they love my work or whatever. Somebody say, oh, we want this for a Christmas gift or a birthday gift. And it's just exciting, you know. Now, sometimes, you know, I come in and, you know, I might get stuck or whatever. So I don't know what I'm going to do today. And so I'm going to just let it rest. And then all of a sudden, something will pop up, you know. Because people say, what you can do today? And I say, oh, this is one of those days that I don't know what it could be yet. And it's something like a writer's block, you know. But it doesn't happen too often.
Encouraged by those around him who recognized his unique ability, his talent, his gift, Alvin paints frequently at his studio in Framer Dave's on Mississippi Street in historic Donaldsonville, Louisiana. He can also be found online at alvinbaptiste.com. Bringing art to life is something that this Ascension Parish resident is doing in a whole new way. We're joined with Ronnie Anderson Jr. in the Anne Buren Fairy Tales. Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us here. When we saw this, we could not pass it up. Tell me a little bit about yourself as an author in Amber and Fairy Tales.
Well, thank you for having me, Raven. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share Amber with the community. I'm a father first. That's what kicked it all off. My daughter, having a question, and it has blown into 7 books and growing. And just spending time as an author is like amazing. I'm just working all the time trying to create new stories that I can share with the community, and it's work. It's a lot of work.
It's good work, and I think it's work that helped to answer the question, and we're going to get into that. You said your daughter had a question, and I think that question might be in the minds of a lot of little girls. What was the question?
So my oldest, Ellie, I was picking up from school, and she asked me, she was like, "Dad, how come other little girls get to have more than one princess and we only get to have one?" And I was a bit ignorant on that, but that was the question that sparked it all.
And so as a father, when you hear that question, what's running through your mind, and then how did you come to this type of solution?
Well, as a dad, you're always trying to protect. That's one of the first things you want to do is how can I protect, how can I fix? Those are the things that are in my mind all the time. And after research, I was just like, I have to fix this. I want to be able to give her more than one princess, and not just her, but other little girls.
So the Amber and Fairy Tales were born. Tell me a little bit about the process and coming up with the name Amber. What does it mean, and how did these characters come to life?
So I'll start with the name. The name Amber, and so my last name is Anderson, and my wife's last name before we got married was Bowman, and the RAN are my initials. So I wanted to combine the two families that had a huge impact on my life. My mom and my wife and her parents. They had a huge impact on my life, so I wanted to honor them in the name.
That's awesome. So the Amber and Fairy Tales were born, and now tell me a little bit about these beautiful characters here.
Okay, so beautiful comes from our fairy tale here, Changing Beautiful. And in this fairy tale, which is my first fairy tale, I wanted to change the word beautiful. I wanted to add a little color to that, because there was a time where people of color, people that look like you and I, were left out. And so, not that I want to diminish the word beautiful, because we're all beautiful. I mean, you look at the world around you, there's diversity everywhere. There's no one type of tree. There's no one type of animal. Sometimes you would think, oh, you look at the cats and you're like, that's just a lion. But there are different types of lions. There are different types of monkeys. And so in this fairy tale, Beautiful, I'm just adding a little color to Beautiful. And I found that it was lacking. I wanted to fix it. And so Princess Beautiful is a beautiful princess that has the world, has everything that is, you can imagine. She had it. And in her world, normally the sons were honored and kings honored that. Every man, woman pretty much wanted to have that son first, something to pass down. But then in this fairy tale, her father, he has a daughter, and he changes that. And now you have this balance that I would say of loving both the daughters and the sons. And so, yeah, Princess Beautiful, that's my first character, and yeah.
So take me into character creation. Your daughter asks a question that sparked the birth of these fairy tales when it's going into conceptualizing how these characters will look, because you're creating a solution to a question.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Raven. So my artist, I don't want to leave her out, Seda Koskin, we work together to make sure that little girls of color can be able to see characters that look like them. Because when you can't see yourself, one of the first things that happens is a sense of value. And when you can't see yourself, you can't really value yourself. And I wanted to make sure that my daughter, look, you'll never feel that way again. I want to make sure that you value who you are. And I don't want you to think that you can't be anything, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. And just like Dad is working hard to change the situation, you'll be able to do the same thing. And so character creation, I wanted to make sure that they had hair that, like, if she see Big Mama or she see her mom or she see her, sometimes her hair is puffy, then she'll be able to see that. I wanted her to not just, you know, if you look at a lot of old African American art, or depictions of us, you will see that the quality would be sometimes lacking. And I wanted to find an artist, a professional artist, someone that would like have that same desire as me to be able to uplift a people through the stories, through the artwork. And one of the first things when people see it, they're like, "Oh, who did the art? It's amazing." Like the clothing, and I just love her eyes. And we worked on everything. And yeah, so it's been a long process, but when you get to see it, you hear little kids say, "Mommy, look at her. She looks just like me." Or Dad.
I know, I'm thinking that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I am.
We worked really hard on that.
That was bringing me into my next question.
Mm-hmm.
You found a solution for your child, but there are so many more that look like her.
Yeah.
And so now that this has taken off, tell me a little bit about the growth of these stories and the outreach. What is the response from other little girls and other parents now having accessibility to something like this?
So when I first created it, I didn't get the response that I was looking for. It took some time, but once like people became aware of what we were doing, and you know, it started with one invite here. You come to this I believe it was the library in Ascension, where they invited us out to do a little community interview, and from that it just exploded. There were different libraries, different schools, daycares, preschools. We ended up getting our first major apparel deal. From there, we got our own brand representation, and it has just been growing since then. I would say Ambrin has been a blessing to me. It has, I like to tell people that it is a healing project, and it's not just for children of color, but it's also for those who are outside of the community to be able to grab books and say, hey, just like we fell in love with Cinderella, we fell in love with Snow White, I want little girls from all over to say, I love Princess Beautiful story, or I love Princess Chandelier. I want them to grab these stories and say, this is another great fairy tale. And just to tell kids, hey, if you don't like this fairy tale, then try Ambrin fairy tales. They're really good.
You know, you created this as an Ascension Parish resident. What are your goals for Ascension and beyond?
So just like when you hear other major companies, like Walmart was in Arkansas, I want one day people to say, Ambrin is founded in Louisiana. And to know that, like, that's a great artist, a huge company that's putting stories out there that are going across the world. And we have little girls, little boys, parents, they thank me all the time. I get letters written to me, hey, you're doing a great job, how can I help? And it just, I'm excited at the growth, but what I really would like most is the continual support from the community, because that lets us know we're doing a good job, and it also allows us to give back more.
When you think about story ideas, because you have a day job,
yes.
This is you wanting to be a father who can provide something that his daughter can see. You walked into this. Now you're an author.
Yes.
Walk me through this process of your day job to now I'm an author.
Yes.
And you're creating all these books that we have behind us.
Yeah, so it is pretty tough. My profession, I'm a clinical laboratory scientist. I manage 3 of Baton Rouge General's laboratories, along with my awesome team there, because I'm not doing it by myself. And so I would love to say shout out to Baton Rouge General, but during the day I'm working. I'm all over the place, but I see thousands of names. And in my field, I'll be like, that's an interesting name. And so I'll just write the name down. And then I may see another patient name. And sometimes I combine names, and throughout the day, I'm always working on the creative process. Sometimes I hear stories and I'll be like, okay, I can add this little piece to a story, and I jot it down in my phone. Then I come home, I'm ripping and running. My daughters are in dance, gym, cheer, and then I'm raising my nephew as well. He's into bowling. And so once we get that settled, the food done, I'm rushing to the desk over there to go like start writing. So, yeah.
So throughout the day, you're creating.
I'm creating all the time. Yeah.
How do you say the transition from scientist to now scientist/author has been?
So, as a scientist, one of the first things that come to mind is research. So the research inside helps the stories, because I'm always like looking up different names of castles and different lands. I'm going back, I'm researching all the time. That's what I do on a daily basis. So when they come together, you can sometimes see it in the stories. And people are like, these are well written. The worlds of the characters are built to like engulf you in and to take you there. I want to give you that out of body experience when you're reading the story so that you're there.
So take us there. There's Changing Beautiful, but then you started to create more books behind this. Tell me a little bit about the storylines.
Okay, so none of the stories are like if you, they don't, each story in itself takes you into a different world. They all are from the magical world of Ambrin, created by the imagination of R. Anderson Jr. But in each story, some like Chandelier, which is our latest fairy tale that just come out, it's like it has this little dark feeling to it. So if you like Snow White and you're into witches and whatnot, then that would be a great fairy tale to read. Then you can come to The Hairless Bear if you're like a little preschooler, you're a little kid, and you want to learn about empathy and name calling. How does that affect one when you're like being mean or rude to someone? Then in these stories, they will help you to learn because they're filled with morals. And I'm trying to get us back to that point of like, there's so much in entertainment today that is negative, whereas Ambrin is like all positive. Where I want families to be able to trust our stories. And so, and to trust our company, that when you allow your children or you yourself reading our stories, that we're not trying to sway you to do wrong. I want them to know that you're in good hands. So, yeah.
And if someone wanted to get their hands on an Ambrin fairy tale, how do they do that?
So you can get Ambrin through Ambrin.com. That's our website. You click on there, you'll see like all our social media presence on there, from TikTok to YouTube. You'll find us there. Twitter, which is now X, you'll find us on there. So we're pretty much on all of the major platforms. You can get us through there.
And I have to bring this full circle.
Okay.
What does your daughter think about this brand, and how is she involved?
So I remember the first time I revealed this image right here to them, and that's why this image is here. She was like, Ellie, I want you to come see something. And so Kaya, they come in there, and I was like, look what's here. I want you to see. And then just to see that look on their face, the surprise. And she was like, what is it? I was like, that's another princess. I'm adding more. And so every day I'm working on it. And sometimes to see them like writing in their little books, creating their own little stories and whatnot, it's just inspiring, because that is inspiring them. And I'm interested too. I want to see where it goes from here with them as well. But they love it.
Well, Ronnie, thank you for taking us into your world.
Yes.
We are forever grateful. Thank you for taking the Ascension community into this world and beyond our community. And we just wish you a lot of growth and success.
Thank you.
If you would like to get your hands on an Ambrin fairy tale, you heard them, Ambrin.com will have access to that on the screen. When it comes to organ donation, there's so much to learn and people out there who are ready to educate. Representative from the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, multi-ethnic specialist and educator, Christy Gotro, is here to tell us just what we need to know. Christy, thank you for joining us on the couch.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, we're excited to have you. You have a heart literally on your chest.
Literally, yeah.
Tell me about LOPA. What is it?
So LOPA is Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. They started back in 1988, and we handle all things organ, tissue, eye donation after death. And so we have our recovery center. It's like our heart out in Covington, but we service the entire state.
LOPA seems very purpose-driven. Tell me about the why of the organization and your why. How did you get involved?
So LOPA's why is to make life happen. It is to take from one life, and not really take, to recover from one life the gifts that the family gives in order to make life happen for another family, right, for the recipient. For me, it's personal because I'm a living organ donor. And so over 15 years ago, I decided to say yes to my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time. We weren't even boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. We were friends, and I just wanted him to feel better after learning he was on dialysis. Finding out what it was. Originally, I didn't even know, what was really going on. But then once I learned more about it, it was kind of like, oh, well, if I can live with one kidney, I'll just give you one of mine. Like, just as simple as that, right? Just saying yes. And I saw how it preserved his life. He didn't know if he was going to be able to have kids. And we had 3 biological kids, and he got a bonus one because I already had one. He didn't know that he would even be married, And so seeing the marriage and the kids and the vacations and being able to not have to go to dialysis, those things for me personally were like, I did a really good thing, it preserved somebody's life. But then when I met LOPA last year, it like tied into a bigger purpose. It was like, okay, there are other families, other people who are saying yes to extend the life of someone else. And so, like you said, it's full circle. That heart comes back around, saying yes is, what I like to tell people, it's perpetual, right? Because it's a part of someone's legacy. My husband did have 3 biological kids, but 2 of them are they're boys. And so they will carry on his name and carry on his legacy because I said yes. And so a lot of times it's not looking at the loss, but your why should be looking at the gain and the generations to come and the anniversaries and the birthdays and, the babies being born and things like that. And so what LOPA does and what I decided to do is definitely making life happen for generations.
And now you're getting the opportunity to spread that education to so many more people who, like you said, may not even know that this is an option.
Yeah, exactly.
Multi-ethnic specialists. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So the disparities in the multi-ethnic community in the state of Louisiana are disproportionately higher across the state, right? And so in the southern region alone, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, the statistics, the percentages are high in the multi-ethnic communities. But for the state of Louisiana, there are over 2,000 people waiting on organ, like life-saving organ transplants, right? But out of the 2,000, we make up 68% of that waiting list. And of that 68% of the waiting list, the majority are kidney patients waiting, right? And so when you see the need, you got to meet it. It's like, what do we do? How do we inform them? How do we educate them? How do we get out there? And it's like, let's create a position and let's target those areas because people are dying and we want to save lives. When we say we are making life happen, we're trying to make life happen for everyone. And so where we see the need is where we've decided to go.
68% multi-ethnic communities. There's got to be something blocking them from donating outside of knowledge. They may know a little bit and not actually know. What are some of the myths?
That's definitely why, well, one of the reasons why the number is high is probably more health targeted is why the percentage is so high, but it's definitely some myths. When I'm out in the communities, a lot of times I get, oh, I'm not going to put that heart on my license because they're not going to come save me. That's number one, right? I hear it all the time. And I tell people, when the EMT arrive, they're not looking for your driver's license. Their job is to save your life because then their job is on the line. If they don't save your life, if they don't do everything they are trained to do to save you, then you never make it to the ER. And when you get in the ER, they're not looking to see if you got a heart on your driver's license. Their job is to save your life. If you talk to an ER doctor, if you talk to an ER nurse, their job is to make sure they stabilize you. And even when you move from the ER to the next part, their job is still to sustain your life. And so we don't come in until everybody has done everything they're supposed to do. And one of the main things that I have to tell people is we don't take all deaths. Not everybody can donate. Just because you're dead, it does not qualify you to be an organ donor. You must die of brain death. And then there must be 2 neurologists that say, you know, yeah, they're definitely brain dead, there's no activity. And if you die by heart, like if it's because your heart stopped, then you become a tissue donor. You're not necessarily qualified to become an organ donor. So there are so many other things that go into it. And so I like to tell people, you know, even if you don't put the heart on your license, tell your family about it. Talk to your family about it. Go to the registry itself and register. Go to lopa.org and register. Use your LA Wallet, you know, LA Wallet and register, because it's really about if you want to save a life. Do you want to make life happen for someone else? And not thinking about the loss, and definitely not doing anything out of fear because you think they're not going to save you. And then I think another one is not sure if they're going to be able to have like an open casket. I like to remind people that we have so much technology these days and so many new innovative ways to help the body, and it's the same for after death. So even when we recover organs and say we do like tissue, and when we remove bone, there are prosthetics and things put in place. We have a team of people who are really great at what they do, and they will stitch them back up, and you'll be able to have that open casket funeral, you know, that you want. And so, and some of the myths, there's always just the lack of education, I believe.
And so what goes into LOPA deciding what kind of education to put out to the community? And if you were talking to residents in Ascension Parish and Louisiana and beyond, that 68% really who don't know, and more than that, yeah. What is the key elements of education, the simple 10-second conversation that could happen?
Why not? Why not? If you needed it, then what would be your response? You know, it ties back to the why, and the why ties into a question. Why not? Why not take care of your organs and take care of your health so that you don't get on that waiting list, so that you don't have to get on dialysis, so that you don't have heart disease and you need a heart? But then at the same time, why not consider just saying yes because you have a healthy body? Or not even if you have a healthy body, because you know someone else may need it. Just asking yourself, you know, why not do it? And then thinking about if it were you and if it were a family member, if it was your aunt or your child or your husband, you know, and then just going from there. And that's kind of how we target our education. It's knowing what the needs are, understanding the lack of education maybe, understanding what, we even single it out to the zip codes, because we know where the true needs are, and going there to say, these are the things you can do to get healthier. These are the things, right now we have a Health is Wealth initiative that just launched last year in Shreveport, and it'll be coming here to the Baton Rouge and Ascension Parish regions here. It is to educate the community on even organ health. Going to your doctor, understanding the medical terminology, asking the right questions, knowing what it is that you need for you and your family, so that you don't become the one that needs. And then at the same time, understanding there are people who need, and saying, okay, yeah, I'll do it.
That's wonderful. And
yeah.
You tell me that even at the state level,
yeah,
there's some moves being made to push, you know, just the education of organ donating and the things that LOPA teaches forward. Tell me about that.
So I would say for the multi-ethnic community, it's going into the schools right now. We have last year Allie's Law passed, which is, she was an organ donor, and they didn't really know much about giving and things like that. And so her family just kind of educated themselves on the whys. Why should they? You know, what happens? How does it benefit another family? And then they really push the education for students. When you go into driver's ed, they have like a very short, you know, part of the curriculum that they go over to educate the student on organ donation. But when you go into the Office of Motor Vehicles, the conversation is very short. They usually just ask, you know, if you want to be an organ donor. You may get a little bit of information there. But the education really is given, I feel, should be given at a very young age, so that you understand what all of your organ functions are and how they can help you. then once you understand how they can help you, it's how they can help someone else. You can't really teach values outside of the house. It's usually left up to the parents. But LOPA likes to go in and kind of piggyback on the value system that parents maybe already have in place, but definitely starting at a younger age to at least teach or give the education on how it benefits. You know, they may not genuinely want to do it, but once they have the education, it may be, okay, well, if that's what it does for me, and then I know that someone else's body may not be operating the way it should be, and I could possibly, you know, be the one that helps them, then they go into, you know, saying yes. But definitely starting the education at a very young age. And we have like a transplant science curriculum that we use, and we kind of cater it according to the age groups, right? And so if it's a very young group of kids, it's really just talking about this is what a heart is, this is what, you know, these are what your lungs are, and this is what they do. And then we move up, like middle school, they get a little bit more detail. And then high school, it's, you know, all of the functionalities, but at the same time, we also go into like the statistics of, you know, how many people are waiting on this specific organ. And, you know, even with lungs, we have a set, and you have two of them, but you may, you know, one recipient may receive one and another recipient another. And the same with the kidneys, you have two, but one, you know, one goes to one recipient and one goes to another. So when it's high school, it's definitely getting more into the details and helping them understand the functions and then the benefits as well. But yeah, starting with the younger ones and then having them to have the conversation with their parents.
So when all this education takes place and maybe someone gets to the point, I think I want to give that yes, or I'm close, but I may need a little bit more of a push. What is the sign-up process? Is there, I'm almost there, let me just learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
How do they sign up? Where do they go?
So they can go to lopa.org. We have all the information that you need at lopa.org. But then, too, use your Donate Life, use your Google. I like to tell my kids, if you don't understand it one way, then go and be very specific and put it in another way. So if you go to lopa.org and you want to see different stories, we have them there. But then you can always use Google to put in another story in another state. You know, maybe you want to know of a story that's similar to maybe a family member story. You want to be very specific. Go and find the stories. The stories always hit home for me. I mean, I have my personal story, but since working for LOPA, hearing the stories of the recipients and the donor families, it's like, I want all my family, you know, to be organ donors, even though they don't all agree. My 10-year-old told me, it's like, no, I'm not going to donate. I'm going to keep my legs so I can walk around heaven. I'm like, okay, but, you know, not everybody wants to say yes, but when you hear those stories, they touch you, because the families sometimes have a hard time closing. Usually the accidents are sudden, right? Their family member is taken away suddenly with accidents. And so they don't really have that closure that they wanted. But when that heart is transplanted into another person and they can put on that stethoscope and then they can listen to the heartbeat, it's life-changing, because you see the tears and they feel connected to the person. We've even had stories of people like starting to crave food items that their donor, you know, would crave, or starting to be open and like new things that originally they would never go into, right? Because of, you know, that transplant or them feeling connected in some way. And they become families even, like the recipients and the donors, they get together on holidays, they celebrate birthdays together. And so just those stories are everything. And I think that it all encompasses, right, that making life happen. It all just kind of comes together with that, but definitely a story.
That is beautiful. I love the idea of a family being able to gain their loved one back in a different capacity.
Way. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if anyone in the community wanted to be able to reach you for outreach, education, a health event, how do they get in touch with someone coming from LOPA to kind of spread that wealth of knowledge?
I'm going to circle you back to lopa.org. You go onto lopa.org and they have where you can request speakers. We have Learn More about everything. It's the health and the wellness. There's Learn More. Education for the teachers and the students. There's a Learn More button in the lopa.org. But definitely requesting speakers as well. It's the same thing. And for your region, right? Because you may not be in Ascension Parish. You may be in East Baton Rouge Parish, Feliciana Parish. We have community educators all over. all over the state and even North Louisiana, right? There's someone in your area that can come out and give the education. I'm praying that, you know, the circle grows of people who already know that we exist. They already know to go seek and to go and look for us because of the education that's going out.
Well, Christy, thank you so much for joining us on the couch. I learned so much today.
Thank you.
And I think our viewers will definitely learn a lot more from having you here.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And like Christy said, if you would like to learn more, www.lopa.org.